I'm just going to do
There
this
we
real.
go.
Yeah, thanks everyone for joining us tonight. It is October 21st, 2025, and we have a guest with us tonight from the Maine DEP, Alex, to talk to us about some water quality and impacts on water quality. So thank you very much for joining us tonight, and I'll hand it over to you.
Great. Okay. Now, let me just try to see if I share, if I start this.
Yeah, we do see the PowerPoint presentation now. So
Okay, but
yeah.
if I start, let me just see if I start this PowerPoint, this slideshow. Do you still see it or no?
We
Do you see it
see
any
the
differently?
we see the notes one. If you go to the
Okay.
display, yeah, the
Now,
display
how do
settings,
I,
just switch it.
Nick,
Yeah,
you're gonna have to, Nick, you're gonna have to help me. How do I
that's okay.
switch it to the other? How do I get this screen down?
Do you see the display setting up at the top there? It's a little drop down up right at the top of your bar.
Okay. Um,
That's okay. I can throw it up on mine too, if that's helpful. You can just tell me when you want me to switch slides. Does that work
Sure,
too?
why don't we do that? So
Okay.
let me stop share. We'll do
Yep.
it your that way.
No worries. Yeah, just let me know when you want me to switch, and we will be good to go.
Okay.
All right, and then I
Start
want to.
that. You gonna start the slideshow or?
Yep. Yeah, I'm just jumping and switching this over. Duplicate. There we go. You all seeing this now?
Great.
Wonderful.
Okay, so I'm Alex Pugh. I'm the manager of the water protection section and the subsurface wastewater unit at the drinking water program, part of the DHHS. It's the Division of Environmental and Community Health, and I worked in petroleum cleanup for 27 years at the Maine DEP before moving to the drinking water program in 2021. Next slide, please. So let's start with the workings of a septic system. And you'll see I sometimes will call it a septic system, sometimes I'll call it a subsurface wastewater system, disposal system. In our parlance, and our rules and stuff, we call it a subsurface wastewater system. But anyway, here's a diagram of a septic system. The wastewater starts, it leaves the house and goes into the tank. Is there a problem?
No, no, sorry.
Okay.
Somebody had their mic on. Yeah.
Okay. And in the tank is designed to equilibrate hydraulic flows and retain oils and grease and let solids settle and provide a minimal amount of anaerobic digestion. And so the fats will float to the top and the solids will settle to the bottom. And we have a measurement we call total suspended solids, and that's gonna that total suspended solids concentration will start in the order of 500 to 900 milligrams per liter, and by the time it gets through the tank, it's down closer to 500 or 50 to 100 milligrams per liter. And then so the wastewater leaves the tank and goes into the drain field, and you notice the little purple arrows going down. That water is actually going through unsaturated soil, more or less. And so the drain field is considered aerobic, and all kinds of aerobic processes happen in the drain field, include things like the adsorption processes and things of that sort. why don't we go to the next slide? So, right, we'll go to the next slide. So, okay, two parts of this slide. First of all, I include the chart on the left, and all the chart on the left is sort of, wow, isn't it interesting how sanitation has gotten better and better over the last 200 years. We have child mortality rates in the order of close to 50% in 1800, and it drops fairly continuously all the way to 2020. Now, interesting. I find it interesting that look at like 1940s on how flat that is, and that is where we think of all kinds of innovations happening. You know, um, the Clean Water Act was 50 years ago last weekend that it was signed in, and that was 1972, and all kinds of innovations happened with the Clean Water Act, and yet that that level of increasing or decreasing mortality rate gets flatter and flatter. It's just the low hanging fruit. But there is a number of different things that a septic system can sort of manage, and that's this list on the right. And we'll go through that a little bit. Let's change the next slide, please. So right, so we talked about nitrogen, and nitrogen in the tank, that anaerobic tank, all that nitrogen, well, 85% of that nitrogen turns into like ammonia and ammonium. And some of that ammonia actually leaves the tank in gas form and goes up the stink pipe and out of the house. So that's kind of interesting. The stuff that goes into the drain field then turns back into nitrate and nitrite, and the biggest reduction of nitrogen happens once it gets into the disposal field, is the plant and microbial uptake. And phosphorus, we talk about phosphorus all the time and how it causes harmful algal blooms and things of that sort. Now, phosphorus is not much is going to happen in the tank, but in the disposal field, it can absorb to silt particles. Now I'm talking about adsorption, and adsorption is pretty much just like it sticks to silts. When I say adsorb, it's like a charged, slightly charged surface of the silt, and the charge of the phosphate makes it stick to the silt. So that's what I'm talking about with adsorption. So it sticks to the silt. It slows down in all the phosphorus in all the soil, and then plants and microbes can take up the phosphorus. And there might only be, might be 5 or 10% gets through. So, the less the better, especially when we're talking about a lake. And then let's talk about bacteria a little bit. Bacteria, so it's when it's the wastewater itself, bacteria is going to be super high, like fecal coliform levels are going to be like 1 million or 100 million colonies per 100 milliliters, and it's going to the disposal field is going to strain some of that out. It's going to be like a filter. Just the soil particles are going to slow that down, and adsorption again. They're going to stick to the soil particles. They're going to stick to the organic coatings on the soil, and then one of the things that happens is that other microbes eat the bacteria. When you're talking about fecal coliform, you're actually, once the fecal coliform gets into the disposal field, there's no increase in fecal coliform. There's a decrease in fecal coliform from then on. And I thought that was interesting. So anyway, that's bacteria. And also the other thing about bacteria is that it's going to die off with time. And fecal coliform, for example, generally lasts about 30 days in fresh water and in sewage, and about 20 days in unsaturated soil. And a little higher, it can range higher than that, but it's generally in the order of 30 days in fresh water and in sewage. So bacteria, let's move on to the next slide. Viruses, similarly, they actually last a little bit longer. They can last as much as 120 days, but more likely that's 50 days. And in fresh water and in sewage. And the thing about viruses, though, most of the time, there's not going to be there's no viruses in the wastewater, but then somebody gets sick, and all of a sudden, then you've got 10 to the 5 PFU, which we call plaque forming units per milliliter. So all of a sudden, so you've got either it's feast or famine with viruses. When somebody's in the household is sick, then you've got lots of viruses. Otherwise, you might have no viruses. And then similarly, protozoa, like that little critter in the corner, that there is the Cryptosporidium. Also, Giardia is another protozoa. They are really hard on the health, but luckily they only last 15 to 30 days in the wastewater. So if you can absorb them, if you can filter them out with the soils, if they can get them stuck on the silts, organic coatings, then the protozoa won't be as big a deal. Next slide, please. Oh yeah, there's organic chemicals. Septic systems are not really designed to handle organic chemicals, but they can stick to organic coatings. They can stick to the silts and things of that sort and get slowed down and then biodegrade in the disposal field. Okay, next slide, please. So let's talk about what happens when a septic system fails. Now, this is our definition in the rules. We call the rules Chapter 241. And so I'm going to read this quickly, and then we'll have some pretty pictures. The malfunctioning system means that a system that is not operating or that is not functioning properly based on the following indicators: ponding or outbreak of wastewater or septic tank effluent onto the surface of the ground, seepage of wastewater or septic tank effluent into parts of the buildings below ground, backup of wastewater into a building being served that is not caused by a physical blockage or of the internal plumbing, and contamination of nearby water wells and water bodies. So next slide. Here we have some backup. Next slide. We can go pretty quickly on this one. It's surfacing, as you can see, right in the yard. And yeah, the next slide. More surfacing, really gross. Next slide. There, if it's a bit flatter, it rises to the surface and forms that kind of black biofilm. Next slide, please. And then look, just the size of the tank. And so that's the backing up of the tank there. Next slide, please. And so if your septic system happens to have an alarm and it goes off, do pay attention. Don't just try to short circuit it and get it to stop ringing, because it's going to be making a noise. Next slide, please. So yeah, next slide. So all right, so let's see how does one tell that your septic system, your subsurface wastewater system, is impacting the lake? Now, one thing you can do, option one, is a dye test, and you can get the dye tablets. Your licensed plumbing inspector in the town will have these dye tablets. They're available in plumbing shops, and if you flush these dye tablets, and then all of a sudden you see a plume of this dye out on the lake, you can connect the dots, right? Because this dye is really easy to see. And I've heard one story I heard from someone who's not actually in our unit, but is actually our chemist, and manages the oversight of laboratories. She was saying that she was doing some volunteer work, and they flushed a dye tablet, and 10 minutes later, the 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 dye showed up right in the swimming area. And what did the guy do? Said, well, look at that dye. How long is that dye going to last? I've got people coming on the 4th of July. What's going on here? You got to get that dye out of here. And they're saying, well, this means that you've got septic juices coming right into your swimming area. He said, I don't care. I just want the dye out of my swimming area. So anyway, there's a funny story. Another option you've got, if your dye doesn't work, you can take an E. coli sample from what we call the pore water. And the pore water is that part of the lake where the groundwater is coming out of the bank and into the lake, right? So it's coming through the pore water into the lake. And you can see down that little picture, a field sampler is drawing water out of the tube we call a pore water sampler, and you can see it better in the neck and coming right up. But that pore water sampler is actually sampling water as it comes from the groundwater into the lake. And so if your septic system is impacting the groundwater, which is coming right into the lake, that'll show up in the pore water. And there are these two call alert analyses are the ones that you can use to analyze for fecal coliform and for E. coli and for total coliform. Notice that you need to sample those. You need to get those samples into the lab within 8 hours. So you've got to take that into account, and also make sure you ask the lab to do a lab count and not just a positive negative on the analysis, because if it's just a positive or a negative, that's not going to, a negative is going to tell you something, but a positive is not going to tell you anything. Next slide, please. So let's for a quick example, your septic system is in yellow, and let's say you're wondering if it's impacting Cedar Lake there, which is just the shore there, then the blue. if you sort of looked at the topography and got a sense of how water might be flowing, you could then go down to the lake. And next slide, please. And so here we've got a picture of that tube thing, which you saw the picture. You've got a diagram of the picture what you saw before. This pore water sampler, you can stick into the soil. Probably no more than 6 or 8 inches is fine, and then you draw out the inner tube, which is just keeps it so you can actually push it into the soil, and attach a tube, which is that third picture to the right, and take a water sample right from the pore water. And this is something that I did a little bit of it when I was at DEP, and it is so amazing it actually works. And it's something that wasn't in the normal sampling realm before, but it's this really simple, and it's just a kind of amazing that we didn't think of it before. But this isn't, there's an EPA SOP on this even, so you can reference the EPA SOP if you're going to do a study of it. But this is called a pore water sampler. Next slide, please. This is right from our rule book, and I just highlighted the major water courses like your lake. And so if the septic system is a regular sized one, up to like 5 bedrooms, 6 bedrooms, you're going to be in the first column. If it's like a community system, you're going to be in the second column. If it's an engineered system, it's going to be in the third column. And then the next 3 columns are for tanks. But normally your septic system should be 100 feet away from the lake. And if somebody's had a septic system there and it's worn out and needs to be replaced, the licensed plumbing inspector can allow a design that moves it a little closer to the lake, down to 50 feet. But really, the idea is to get it as far away from the lake shore as possible. And so every effort would be made to get it away from the lake. But instead of having someone have to tear down their house, the LPI can allow a reduction in the setback there. So next slide, please. And what happens when you find a septic system that is failing? Well, first of all, your towns, there's what, 3 towns surrounding the lake, I think? Yeah. Your town can adopt ordinances that are more restrictive than our rules. So that is always an option. If you think our rules are too lax, you can just get an ordinance done. So that's this number one. Number two, if there's been a violation that's occurred, then there's this process that happens where the licensed plumbing inspector writes up a letter saying, hey, landowner, we've seen that you've got this malfunctioning system. You really need to fix this malfunctioning system, and you've got 10 days. So next slide, please. So there's a 10-day window to get things rolling. If that doesn't happen, the licensed plumbing inspector can give you a 20-day extension. But eventually, if there's nothing's going to happen, the town has the option to fund a new septic system up front and then go after the landowner, put a lien on the property, go after the landowner and have the cost of the septic system reimbursed. So next slide, please. So that's what this thing is. And then they can file a civil action against the owner for the cost. Next slide, please. And if the municipality fails to comply, if it's the municipality that's being the stick in the mud, then you come to our unit and we can lean on the town. All right, so next slide, please. Funding is really tough. There are hardly any ways to get grants and things for septic system replacement. The DEP does have this small community grant program, and there's this it can be a grant or a loan depending on the circumstances, and that again that's run through the wastewater folks at the DEP. There might be also some grants and loans at the USDA rural development, and there's at least some technical advice with recap solutions. So that number is a good one too. There's a recap solutions just for the New England states, and they've got a good staff there. They are willing to actually, if you think that there might be something funny with this septic system or something, they're willing to go and walk around your yard with you and look at things and even take a water sample and analyze that water sample for you. They send it to the lab. So there's all kinds of opportunities. Check out the recap solutions. It's a pretty good deal. And then last slide. Again, so this is me. I'm Alex Pugh. I'm a senior environmental hydrogeologist. And that QR code there in the corner, that goes right to our website, the Subsurface Wastewater Unit's website. And this is my cell phone number and my address, my email address. And I'm happy to take questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'll stop sharing for now and then pull it back
Great.
up if need be. But I very much appreciate that. Does anybody have any questions they want to ask?
I have so many.
Okay.
You knew I would, didn't you, Nick?
I did.
We
I hope so.
appreciate you, Wayne.
First person to speak up, because that's what I do, Alex.
Okay.
I guess one of my questions is, years and years ago, when these camps and cottages were built around our pond,
Mm-hmm.
they were 50 by 50 or 50 by 100.
Yeah.
Most of them were 50 by 50 or 50 by 60 or whatever they are.
Yeah.
So there's not enough land mass there to build a camp, build a septic system, and a well. So years and years ago, people would dig a hole, put a tank in the ground, and a makeshift leach field.
Mm-hmm. Which might be just a gunshot blast right through the bottom of the tank, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so, are they grandfathered?
They are grandfathered.
So you can't force the change.
If it's before 1974, then so we've got a rule in our rules that say that whenever there's a new edition of our rules, all the old permits are still valid. So essentially, once you've got something is permitted, or once something that is pre-1974, it's grandfathered.
Even if you sell the property.
Even if you sell the property. Now, if you're selling the property on the pond, you're required to do an assessment. You're required to do an inspection. And if that's inspection, whether or not that inspection fails or is fine, a report needs to go to the town.
Okay.
And if it fails, then you're going to have to figure out the next step.
Because that is probably, in my estimate, is probably one of the biggest problems on our pond.
Yes. Mm-hmm. All those cesspits and everything else, right?
And years ago, I'm not sure exactly, somebody help me here, but I believe in 1972, there was a watershed survey done. I might be wrong on the year. And what they found out was that from that, only 2% of the problem was from septic systems.
Hmm.
So the majority of the problem was from runoff, drainage systems, erosion. And so knowing what we know now about the grandfather clause, probably that's a bigger area to work on, or is a septic system. I mean, so if you come to my cottage and you drop one of those tablets in the water,
yeah,
toilet,
yeah,
and it turns whatever color it is in front of my cottage,
mm-hmm.
all that says is I got a system that's leaking into the water. I'm grandfathered and I can't do anything about it.
No, if it's malfunctioning, then you have to fix it.
Okay, so there's the loophole right there for
So, yeah. So all these systems are fine so long as they're working. But if they're backing up, if they are ponding water somewhere, if they are coming out into the lake, that's when you know that it's malfunctioning and that has to be fixed.
Okay, and who is responsible for that?
So the homeowner is responsible for getting that, paying for it and organizing it, but the town is going to be telling you you've got 10 days to get this started, or the 10 days to get this going, and that kind of thing. So,
What brings me to my next
The people up the street, they're down there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I couldn't hear that.
my next question is, and I don't mean to hog the whole question,
Yeah.
but where in
Right.
DEP or townships around the three towns is it authorized for somebody to go camp to camp, cottage to cottage, and drop a tablet in the toilet?
The licensed plumbing inspectors, the town licensed plumbing inspectors have the authority to do that if they think that the tank, if for example, they say, you know what, your system, our records say that your system was built in 1980. And I there's been some problems in that general area in front of your house, at the lake, and we need to we need to do a little inspection. So we'd like to drop this tablet in the toilet and see if it shows up somewhere.
Okay.
So that's the licensed plumbing inspector can do that.
Okay, one more question, and I'll let somebody else talk. There is a few people who feel that the summer residents,
Mm-hmm.
when they come back home and open their cottages, they are responsible for the lake turning green.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's our septic systems, if you will, that is causing that to happen.
Okay.
And I don't know if I believe that based on the data I have heard, but I don't.
Well, your
I pulled up
algal
this-
growth is going to be a factor of many different things, including not only the phosphorus levels, but also the temperature
Yeah.
of the water. So if it's cold all winter, and the water gets nice and clear, and then all of a sudden it gets cloudy in the summertime. This happens in Damascotta Lake, for example. It's a factor of the temperature as much as the phosphorus.
Thank you.
And Wayne, I did pull up that report that you were referencing, and this is from the final EPA report and from 2004. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
Yeah, it says that septic systems are about 2.1% of the total export of the total phosphorus export from shoreline properties.
And Alex, back in the 70s, I was involved in the Clean Water Act at the paper mill I worked in.
Mm-hmm.
We had a treatment plant that treated our sludge. And what we did is we had a big tank, and they brought in these, we called them bugs, and introduced them into the tanks. And their job was to eat all the bad stuff, and the sludge would fall to the bottom.
Right.
We would take the sludge, squeeze some water out of it, and sell it, and people put it on their gardens for fertilizer.
Yes, and unfortunately, that was where
Yeah.
the origin of the PFAS, right? So
Isn't that?
the unintended consequences, and the DEP certified that was all good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions about this type of stuff?
Well, it sounds like a lot of the responsibility is shouldered by the code enforcement officer. And
Yes.
that both of our towns, well, Green and Wales have, I think they probably work like 4 hours a week. So it doesn't seem like the town has invested a lot of their resources into hiring the people that would be responsible for doing these functions.
I believe I've met at least Wayne's, and I remember. I can't remember. Do you remember the names of some of these folks? Because I think I was. They have some pretty
Alan
good.
Plummer.
Alan Plummer. Yep, I think
Yep.
if I remember correctly, he was pretty smart. He is pretty smart. I talked to these folks guys on the phone quite a lot. So
Mhm.
so yes, they made it be under resourced, but
Yeah.
they do have they have some jurisdiction and things to get things done if they need to.
And our lake is kind of unique in the way that we have three towns on it, but one, Sabattus, is on a wastewater system connected. Yeah. And the other two are not, which I guess a couple of questions that I have. Does anybody else have anything they want to ask real quick? Not real quick, you have plenty of time, but.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. How much does that pour water sampler test cost? I know you said there was actually an organization that would come out and actually test and walk your property for you. Is that like,
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
So the call alert analyses are in the order of $15 or something, but you'd need to get the pour water sampler first, and those can be pretty expensive. You'd have to order them in, possibly borrow one from DEP or something of that sort. If you are just trying to figure out, you've got this one project and you just want to try it, you might be able to borrow one from DEP.
Do you know how much they roughly cost? It's just that, am I missing anything? It's just that like plastic tubing.
It's actually it's a metal tubing that's been at the very bottom, has these very fine slits in them, so to let the water in, and so it's a very thin tube, and then it's got the inner part, the inner rod that stiffens it up and allows it to be pushed into the soil. And then you can use a syringe, but when I was doing it at DEP, we connected it to a pump, a peristaltic pump. And there's other ways of doing it. So, but anyway, it's just I think it's a pretty neat way of connecting the dots, right?
Yeah.
It's so hard to connect the dots in septic system, analyses and stuff to, you say, well, somebody would say, well, there's no proof there that you can't prove to me that that's impacting the water quality. Well, maybe I can. I'll take this sample, and right outside your house, look, we've got, 100 colonies per milliliter of fecal coliform, and boom, you're caught.
What are some signs? Is there impacts on human health? Say if it's particularly bad in front of one camp or something, would somebody experience some type of rash or like?
Well, fecal coliform is an indicator species, so there may be other things going on, and there may be the nutrients coming through may also be making it so that the harmful algal blooms are making it swimmer's itch or something of that sort. So there's a possibility that you could have other issues. There's a funny disease whose name I can't possibly remember, but it's associated with leeches, and someone on Coffee Pond in Casco got bit this last summer, and all of a sudden his leg swelled up, and he spent 2 weeks in the hospital. He got really, really sick. So there are some things that you really have to kind of worry about.
How long does that matter last in the ground? Like, I mean, it's been years and years and years of soil there. So now, how do I know? How do you know if it's your septic system or that was previous before they put in a new one?
So bacteria is probably going to be pretty much gone in 3 months.
Okay.
Yeah, most of it's going to be gone in 30 to 60 days for viruses and for bacteria. For 120 maybe to anyway, a little longer for viruses, a little shorter for the things like cryptosporidium, that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, that was that slide you showed.
Yeah.
Alex, you had stated earlier that the phosphorus will stick to the silt to like slow it down and like let it be like utilized by the other things in the soil.
By the microbes and by plants, right?
Yeah. And you said about 5 to 10% escapes that. What did you mean by that? Does it like
Well, it's
essentially?
it's just saying that, well, you've got so many different types of soils out there, and so many different types of septic systems and things, that it's hard to say, but there's a good chance that not 100% of your phosphorus is being trapped by the septic system. It's not a perfect solution. Now there are very fancy advanced treatment units that will pre-treat for nitrogen and phosphorus. These are the kinds of things that you may hear about coming in like the Falmouth, Massachusetts, where they've got this really awful problem with eutrophication right along the shore of the ocean, and they require all kinds of these fancy advanced treatment systems to be used. And so there's a whole new industry in now along the Cape now of both installing these things and maintaining these things. But these ATUs, these advanced treatment systems, are available, and they do a fair job of treating a number of these different parameters.
Awesome. And so we oftentimes try to look to other groups such as ourselves as examples. Have you seen any like major success cases with people like transforming like their shoreline properties from roughly like older aging septic systems to like many of them being replaced and like either through grant programs or through public initiatives?
So one of the most exciting projects dealing with this kind of thing, I think, was in Waldoboro, and the Madomic River runs through Waldoboro, and the clammers were really upset with how many days of the summer they couldn't clam because of pollution. And so they got organized, and they got folks from DEP involved, and they got some grants going, and they took an amazing number of samples. They're all very smart, and they wrote up this wonderful report called the Madomic River Project, and it's on the Waldoboro town town website. And I just thought, I'm just pointing it out because I think it's just this great example of grassroots, just going and getting things done, and they've had a great success. They were able to reopen many sections of the clam flats that had been closed and things of that sort, because they were able to figure out what was going on. They even got septic sniffing dogs out there, and so that was kind of fun.
No, that sounds like a great resource. Thank you for letting me know. We'll definitely check it out. Just so I understand, like at least the recommendations for the enforcement side from the DEP's perspective, it is responsibility of the code enforcement officers of the town after, of course, the property owner, if like the repairs are not made, and then they have some leeway with the time frame and like doing that. But you had talked about the towns putting liens on properties, the towns then replacing it and then putting those liens on. Towns can choose not to do that essentially too, and then
Mhm.
just kind of just let the problem continue.
They can.
Okay.
Yep. And
And yeah,
that's when you contact our unit, and Brent Lawson, who you spoke or contacted with earlier, he's the state site evaluator and state external plumbing inspector, and he would be the person to work with the towns to get things rolling.
and do they take like extenuating circumstances into account? Say like,
Sure, they
okay,
do. Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
Uh, cool. Any other questions from anybody?
Yes.
We'll of course have this recorded, but
Okay.
yeah.
Alex, is there any responsibility from the state, DEP, EPA, for doing any of this testing, or is it just, why is it always the property owners?
For the testing, you mean like the watershed surveys and things of that sort?
And
Or
no, not so much that is, I guess, like these clam diggers.
yep.
Why did it have to take them to fix the problem and work hard and collect money and beg for money and get grants and stuff when
Well,
it should be the responsibility of,
the town maybe, or the marine resources in that particular case. So they started. They had a group in town that of the clam diggers. That group was loosely connected already to the town, and so they brought it to the select board, and the select board got other people like the marine resources and DEP involved, and they knew that necessarily the marine resources and the DEP wouldn't have known necessarily that the extent of the pollution if it wasn't for these clam diggers bringing it forward. And they were able to get some grants going, and it was a long project.
so you don't have anything at all in your capacity. You don't have anything to do with erosion, runoff, that kind of stuff. You're not.
That's with the main DEP, the erosion and runoff.
That's you don't have anything to do with that in your capacity.
No, we pretty much just administer our unit administers the septic system laws.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Gary, I know you're on here with the. Do you have any questions or anything like that? I know this is a topic you have interest in.
Yes, no, actually still working. No, I think that Alex has done a really good job kind of explaining. I mean, there's so many people that didn't even know what a septic system was. You know, I think one of the interesting things is, the stink pipe coming out of your roof. So if you have a camp or a cottage or a house and you don't have a pipe coming out of your roof to vent, the affluence from your plumbing, you probably have an issue.
You're probably getting something in your house.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably are. Or
right up the drain or something.
It's got a crawl space under it and it just blows away. Yep. And I don't see how, and listening to other comments, we're on a private septic system, wastewater disposal on a private well. So I don't see how that could not be the responsibility of the landowner to maintain. No different than cleaning your gutters or re-roofing your roof or whatever it is. I think you made a good point, 1980. So yes, if you built your property in 1980 or 1990, your septic system needs replacing, even if it was brand new. So I think something that just people have to wrap their heads around is that these things don't last forever. They need to be replaced. They need to be maintained. And I'm glad we're shedding a little light on this issue. And hopefully people will gain a lot of knowledge from, what you had to say, Alex. I really appreciate you coming and speaking to the organization.
Thank you.
Great.
Well, on that note, Gary, let's talk about, aren't we talking a huge cost and homeowners maybe shy away from, can you give me a figure? Is it $20,000 to replace a
20,000 or 30,000? Depend, if you've got a teeny little lot and you have to go with really high technology, you could easily be talking about $30,000.
So about the same cost of replacing your roof or your driveway or all the other things that need to be maintained and, taken care of over the years.
Yeah. Unfortunately, this is one that people don't see very often, so they don't.
No, because it runs downhill. It runs downhill. They just complain about the water and the smell.
That's right.
Yes. But no, it's not like rain coming through your roof causing, mold in your rafters and soaking all your insulation and, just the silent things. Mold is just horrible, but people have leaky roofs for years and years and years. Just like they have driveways with potholes in them and they have septic systems that just, they just don't pay attention to. or don't. A lot of it is don't understand. That's why I appreciate this conversation. So hopefully, a lot of people that didn't know, had no idea what happened when they, flushed the toilet or ran the dishwasher or, took a shower. At least now there's some idea of, the process and what can be done to fix it.
Yeah.
Well, what if there isn't a septic system? Aren't there some camps that don't actually have septic systems? They just have I've heard that there's barrels that are underground with gravel in them.
That's what he was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
The shotgun and the shotgun in the 55-gallon
Yeah.
drum. Yeah. Yep. Well,
That's something that
like,
pretty much what a cesspit is. It's just a contained
Yes.
thing.
It's called a
And,
cesspit.
well, a cesspit is you're pretty much like you've got an old dug well, and now instead of getting water out of it, you put wastewater into it.
Yeah.
And it connects with the groundwater and goes away. And it even flushes, it even in the springtime will rise up and kind of flush things out. And so, it was the standard, in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, but it doesn't do much. It's not a very good system.
And probably another good indication too is that, if you're on a piece of property, as earlier someone was mentioning, a smaller lot that you have, your camp, and you have some sort of place where the affluent goes from the house, and you have a well, if all you can do is flush a toilet and take a shower with that water, and you have to buy bottled water to do everything else, you might have a problem.
Yeah.
Leslie has her hand up.
I remember years ago, Alex, that my parents bought a lot on the Crooked River. The Crooked River used to feed into the Songo River, which fed into Sebago Lake. And as the rivers developed, they started, because I worked with a gentleman, his name was Dr. Dick Lebrecht. And that's what he did. He was an environmentalist for the paper mill. And he lived on the lake. And they found high levels of bacteria. And they traced it back to the river, because a lot of people back then only had a outhouse. And when the rivers overflowed, the outhouses were underwater, and so they went around and forced septic systems.
Yeah. Leslie had her hand up.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, Justin, yeah.
Sorry, I'm tagging in Justin.
Yeah.
Hi, good evening, everybody. And hi, Alex. Welcome. Sorry, I'm coming home a little bit late. I can't wait to watch the recording for what I missed, but I kind of got the Cliff Notes version from Leslie. Sounds like some great information. One of the questions that I had, and she didn't seem to remember if it was brought up or not, in regard to septic systems, was gray water. So if somebody has like a washing machine that's not tied in, or maybe like a shower that's just going outside, or like an outdoor shower, does that fall into the purview of kind of the responsibility of the local code enforcement officer if it's a known problem?
So a gray water should go into what we call a gray water system. And the gray water system can be like just like the disposal field, but not have the tank. But it needs to have something built to get the water into the ground. It needs to be designed around the characteristics of the landscape, and be actually designed by a site evaluator.
Okay, so nothing that's flowing directly from a pipe on top of the ground.
Those are illegal.
Oh, okay.
In fact, this is going to be a shock to you guys, but an outdoor shower is illegal as well. Everybody loves the outdoor showers. I love the outdoor showers, but they're supposed to according to the uniform plumbing code. If you've got something, if the water's coming out of a pipe, it's got to be collected and contained and go to a system that is licensed. So that includes gray water systems.
How about a sump pump?
Now, a sump pump is different. Sump pumps I believe sump pumps can go to the ground.
Alex,
But if it's water coming from a well or from the town supply or something, it's got to go to a septic system or a gray water system. Sorry?
Gary, yeah.
yeah, no, yeah, I had a question earlier. You had mentioned that when you sell a property, that the system has to be tested, and there's a report that goes to the town.
Yes.
Could you provide chapter and verse as to how that happens? I don't think I've ever, and I've done several transactions, so especially private sales. But either way, I mean, so what is the mechanism that does that? Because I don't believe that's an effect in the town of Wales.
Oh, it is. It's under statute. It's under Title 30. I don't have the exact reference right here, though. I could probably find it. But
it's
there,
fine.
There is a.
Yep. No, if that's maybe something you could provide later, maybe Nick could follow up with. But I'd be very interested to see the verbiage and the mechanism to make that circle complete, because I don't believe that is the case in the town of Wales. I can't speak about the towns, but
it is state law and has been for at least like 10 years. And there's in our September 2023 new rules, we have 3 new sections of the rules about these inspectors and what they're expected to do and how they're expected to report things. And so I'd be happy to forward a copy of the rules and show you that it's section 15, 16, and 17. Okay, I'm sorry, and that law, that statute was 22 MRS 42(3)B that requires shoreland zone properties to be inspected before they're sold.
From 2023 forward.
No, that's been in effect since like 2018 or 2016.
Wow, very interesting. Yeah, no, I'd like to see that. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks. And just to be respectful of Alex's time, it is 7:03. So, I appreciate it, Alex. You're more than welcome to stay on if you want. But we also would like to talk about, as the group, the Sun-Journal article that came out.
So I'm going to sign off. Well, thank you, everybody.
Alex, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Really informative.
Yeah.
Oh, very good.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for the
You have a great
extra
night,
work
Alex.
you
I'll
did.
email you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right. I hope that was useful for everyone and informative as well. And, that is definitely not the only time that we can talk to Alex. So if people do have more questions or comments, he did send me his presentation with the information on there, and we can always reach out and email him and talk to him there too. So thank you, Donna, for suggesting the idea. I think that was great. And for Wayne for getting in contact with him and us. Reaching out and establishing that. So it was a great thing. But all right. So I don't know if any of you have read or saw the piece in the Sun-Journal that had happened over the weekend. But Leslie, did you want to, or Justin, did you want to say something about it?
Yeah, sure. So just to kind of give everybody a heads up, and I know this is recorded if anybody has questions. So this article was published in Sunspots, which is kind of an editorial section of the Lewiston Sun-Journal on Friday, October 10th. Upon somebody from the state of Maine reading the article, they reached out to us through our website, and I did not receive the email until Monday morning, just because I don't really kind of take the weekend off. So a gentleman by the name of Mark Stebbins had emailed me through the website, and he is the field services director for the Bureau of Land Resource Management for the state of Maine. In conjunction with that, Nick also received a phone call from a different person from the state DEP, kind of questioning this article, because in the comments on the online section of the article, there was a website and a phone number advertising a cleanup on October 18th with food provided, and basically the gist of the article was pull everything out of the lake, all the plants, all the weeds, all the stuff that's exposed, so we can clean up our shoreline. Obviously, DEP had an issue with that because that violates some of their standards and zonings and practices. And Nick's pulling up the article right now for people to see. So we had to make contact with the DEP to state that this was not us. We didn't post this. We didn't condone this. We informed the state that we organized our cleanup at the end of September for trash, debris, that sort of stuff, but not really to remove any plant species, greenery, stuff like that. So I contacted the Sun Journal, spoke with the reporter Joe Charpentier, who actually wrote the article that was in the paper on Sunday about the individual, Miss Lucille, who originally wrote this and all the work that she's been doing this summer. Then I also spoke with Christine Garrett, who is a member of our group and works for Lake Stewards of Maine, and asked her exactly what we were allowed by law or, following the rules to pull out of the lake or clean up for our shorelines outside of trash and debris. The post that I made on Saturday afternoon, that was working in conjunction with Christine, about the actual rules of what you can and can't do, what requires permitting, what doesn't require permitting, and a couple of invasive species that can be taken from the lake. I just wanted to get that information out there in case people did want to pull some stuff up this time of year. Nick's pulling that up there now, but it's also on the Facebook page. So that was kind of the gist of it, and kind of just wanted to talk about that and kind of our actions behind the scenes. Nick and I, and talking with the Sun Journal and with a couple different people at DEP and with Christine. And that's kind of what happened. If anybody has any further questions, Nick or I can try to answer them. But that was kind of it in a nutshell. The biggest thing that kind of threw us for a loop is the website that was listed on the comments and the telephone number to call. We're both not in service. You couldn't get a hold of anybody. We just wanted to distance ourselves from that website and that phone number, that this wasn't us. And hopefully we did that through the article, and hopefully the article gave people the avenue to find out some more information regarding our Facebook page and the YouTube channel that has all of our recorded meetings on it. So I just wanted to talk about that. If anybody has questions, I can kind of feel free to answer what little bit I know in talking with Mark and with Christine. I don't know what's going to happen with Lucille. When I did talk with Mark Stebbins from the DEP, they were so concerned about this that they were planning. He told me they had a half a dozen state DEP workers who were planning on being around Sabattus Pond on the 18th in trucks to kind of make sure that people weren't doing what they weren't supposed to do. Once he and I talked, and I told him what I had done, the steps I had taken, what I was going to post in conjunction with Christine, he was kind of happy with that outcome, that we were getting the information out there of what you can and can't do. So that's all I had to say about that. Thank you, Nick, for letting me take the time to say that, and I can answer any questions if anybody has any, or just feel free to reach out to me offline if you want to talk about it. So thank you.
Awesome.
I have one quick question.
Yeah.
Where did the phone? This is Anthony. Where did the phone number and the email? The email and the phone number. Where did they come from?
So we don't know.
You may not know.
The contact from DEP, and Nick, you can speak about this if you want to, but her name was Wendy Garland. She tried to send an email to that website address. It came back as undeliverable. And when she called the phone number from the comment section, it was came back as not in service, the phone number. So really don't know.
But this woman put it out there? This woman put
Lucille did not put it out there.
Oh, it wasn't her. Okay.
No, it wasn't her. It was somebody else in the comment section. And that's why we were kind of dealing with two different fires, right?
Oh, all right. Okay. I thought it was Lucille, and that's why I was a little confused.
No, so the two fires were Lucille's letter saying to pull up all the vegetation, the second fire, which was the next door neighbor, was, this website and this phone number saying that there's, going to be food. There's a party. We're doing it on the 18th from, 9 to noon. Everybody come on out. So that's why, when Nick and I spoke Monday morning, we decided to distance ourselves from that. Like, this is not us, this is not our email address. This is not our phone number. We don't know who
it.
this is.
So I conflated the two. I will say, I mean, obviously she did something she wasn't supposed to do, but I love the thought behind it, that she, cares about the lake and, and wants to see it in better shape. So I applaud that, but obviously you can't be doing things that.
Yeah, no, AB, I had the same sentiment. I'm like, oh, when I saw the other article, I'm like, she needs to be part of our group. We need Lucille. So I had the same
Yeah, I applaud it.
reaction.
And, hopefully we can build, work with her and do things the right way.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, absolutely. That was the same sentiment too. It was not necessarily like the act or like the of trying to like pull people together to like clean up the pond itself. It was just more or less just like making sure that we have the right information to do something that might not necessarily to make sure we don't do something that harms the pond at the same time too. So, but
I guess a little related to that is, nobody wants to shame anyone or make, call people out. But I do love the fact that people are speaking out when they see garbage and they're expressing the disappointment. I mean, that tells us that we're making a difference. People are paying attention. People care. They want to see this thing. They don't want to see people dumping garbage. So I think this group should take, this big group should take some credit for that we're helping to raise awareness. So, yeah, it's a good thing. There's some good out of all this,
Well, Justin, did I understand correctly that somebody, Brian Marsh, wanted to remove tires and DEP is requiring a permit to remove tires?
Yeah, you are correct. So Nick was scrolling kind of fast, but Brian Marsh did post on our Facebook page a bunch of tires at Long Beach. As you can see right there, a couple different pictures. When I was speaking with Mark Stebbins on the phone, I told him about those. He went to our Facebook page and saw them. Even though those are tires and they're filled with rocks, Mark said that those needed a permit by rule to be removed. I asked him what that meant, and he said that they don't want tires in the lake, but because of how long they've been there in the rocks, it was basically a formality. He said that it would be no problem to get a permit to remove those tires. Brian did reach out to me, and I told him that, and I have the contact info that I can give to him. But Brian also, I don't ever remember meeting Brian, and if I have, I apologize, Brian, if you watch this. But he took it upon himself to call the Sabattus town office and spoke with the town manager about if he were to get permission from the state and remove those tires to the side of the road, the town of Sabattus would pick those up and dispose of them for free, mostly because we weren't aware of those tires and those amount of tires, nor did we have the permit to do them during our lake cleanup when we were offered the disposal from the towns. So that's something that I can reach back out to Brian and get a hold of Mark Stebbins from the state and get that permit so we can do that work hopefully before the weather gets cold and those get frozen in the ground. One of the things that Brian did say, is where those are located and the amount of tires there are, is it would be helpful if we could get some people with like a four-wheeler or a side-by-side to kind of put some of those in and just ease transportation to a disposal area for the town instead of having to lug and carry them over a great distance. But once I coordinate with Brian and Mark, I can let the group know on when that would be, and many hands make light work. So,
well, I don't want to just gloss over this because from a neighbor of mine, to get a PBR, she applied in April and she got it in June, and so it was a long process. And the other thing is there a price does Brian have to pay for a permit for a PBR? Does anybody know that?
I don't know that, but when I talk to Mark again, I can get that answer. I'm not sure if there's a cost for that or not.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for all that coordination work. And thanks to Brian Marsh too for reaching out to the town office. That's really cool. And Justin, if you end up by having a day picked out where all that stuff is in line and you need some extra help, just give us a holler. We can try to get some people together to do that.
Yep. And another thing on that note is, within probably 15 days, 20 days, the lake is going to start refilling.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Good.
And then again, how many days?
Dam's going to be done around November 15th, and that means the water's rising. So if we have to wait 4 months for a permit, those tires are going to be underwater for the next 50 years.
Right.
I think maybe communicating that point to Mark
may expedite the permitting process. But just again, just so
it's
people
good.
are sitting there saying, "Hey, we should dredge the lake," and it's like, well, you should have got a permit for that 5 years ago because it's never going to be this low again. But anyway, just to throw that in, the water will be rising and never going down this low again.
After the 15th, right? After the 15th?
I mean, the gates are in. I mean, our permit, I think we have to be out of the water, I believe. Yes, right around then, if not soon.
Wow. So not too many walks along our beautiful beach left.
Well, it depends on how much it rains, but again, the gates are in. The dam is going to be the lake's going to start filling up by probably mid-November, hopefully.
That thing looks beautiful, by the way.
That has been
amazing.
Nice, pleasant.
It truly is amazing.
Yeah, I'm going up for a moose hunt this weekend to Maine. Now I'm only going to be in Sabattus for like half a day while I wait for my dad to get ready to go up. But I'm definitely going to walk down that driveway on Conway Street and check this puppy out. Of course, behind the lines. But if anybody wanted to give me a private tour, I would love to see it.
You got a permit?
I don't. No, I don't.
I mean, your dad get a permit?
My older brother did. So yeah, it's a whole thing, and it starts on Monday. So I'm coming up, and yeah, so it should be good. But I'm excited.
Those tires on Long Beach, it almost looks like those may have been put in there intentionally to prevent erosion or something. Is that possible?
Yep.
Yeah, it probably was something like that.
Before there was really any good regulation on the dam, and people just opened and closed it as they felt like. Yep.
Yeah.
Wow, look at them all.
Anybody check the years on these puppies? But no, that's great. I'm super excited about the dam. Honestly, when you brought it up, I had totally forgotten about it. I of course saw Lou's post earlier this week, but I mean, wow, just the journey just for that one thing, huh?
Yeah, I can't believe it's already going to be done.
Yeah, very cool work.
And so many questions, but literally, it's at the point where you almost can't get it in a picture anymore. It's so big.
It's huge.
It truly is amazing. Yep.
I think it's interesting, Nick, going back to the weeds and stuff in the pond.
Mm-hmm.
The weeds contribute to the problem of the algae blooms, which takes the oxygen out of the water. And you can't remove the plants because that's what's creating the algae blooms. And if we don't do anything, at some point, there'll be no more oxygen in the water and the plants will all die anyway.
Well, yes and no to an extent too. So the phosphorus and the organic nutrients that come from like the external loading of the pond through erosion and through other means, however the amount, like septic systems too. Phosphorus and nitrogen and things like that is exactly what plants need to grow. That's why it's such good fertilizer for this type of stuff. Like when they talk about dredging these types of things and using it as fertilizer. But like the plants, the reason why there's so much growth on the plants themselves is because it is so phosphorus rich, those nutrients. And although their decomposition is a contributing factor to the hypoxia or potential hypoxia of a body of water, they are also using that phosphorus to grow as well. So it's like a weird it's like a very complex like relationship between all of these things. And you certainly don't want to remove out any of those like native species of plants and things like that. Like, and I think I read Justin's thing when he posted it. It's a great source of information. And anybody who is watching, like utilizing like this resource right here of invasive plant species and like how to characterize them. And for anybody who is relatively tech savvy too, there's some great apps on there where you can literally like take a picture of a plant and it actually, with really good accuracy, will tell you what it is. So if you're having trouble identifying things out in the world to see if it's something that you should pull or not, those types of apps and things can really help. But Justin, I saw you had your hand up.
Thank you. I got a better understanding now because I thought they like hand in hand with each other then.
In a way, but I mean, algae is honestly just like it's phytoplankton. It is like the plant version of like a microbe in a sense. So it like uses the same types of things that like a regular plant would need to grow. So it like the reason why there's maybe so many weeds is because it's such a phosphorus rich area. Yeah.
There's a lot of them in there, so I don't think her pulling out a few is going to change the outcome of the league.
True, but I think it's just best to just make sure to get the approval needed, and maybe that's a conversation too that we have from the Watershed survey. So and all of that is coming up too. But Seek, yeah, that's a great one too. Leslie, yeah, or Justin, go for it. Sorry about that.
Sorry, I just had a question and I wanted to circle back to Gary. So the work on the dam is going to be concluded for the year by November 15th. Does that mean they're going to, and they're done all in-water work, so the coffer dam, all of that's going to be removed. However, the dam gates still have to be open somewhat to allow that 3.5 cubic feet a minute flow for the Sabattus sewer department, correct? So the only, when you say the dam will begin to refill November 15th, you mean only if we get torrential rains or next spring after snow and ice melt is when the pond will return, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So it's not like by November 17th, the lake's going to be filled again and we won't have access to those tires or still can pick up trash on the shoreline. It will be reflective on the amount of precipitation either this fall or snow melt and ice melt in the spring. Thank you.
Correct. Well, yes, correct. And just remember, normally October is the wettest month of the year, and this year it probably is, but it's not very wet. Not to say that won't change in November. So, currently, we're pumping from the lake, to bypass water to get that minimum flow for the sewer department. But the coffer dam is actually lower than the actual level of the lake. So once the coffer dam is pulled, we're going to gain, don't quote me on this, but I'd say we're going to gain a foot as soon as we pull the coffer dam and turn the pumps off. And then it'll rely on, leaving the gate open a tiny bit for the sewer department.
Good.
Nice. Gary, is the dam commission doing any type of like little ribbon cutting types thing or anything like that, or?
I don't think that's in the plans.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll see. Maybe next year. Who knows? Maybe next year. Right now we're just trying to stay ahead of schedule. A little bit of wet weather this week, but trying to stay on or ahead of schedule and just get the project to fruition.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. No, maybe something for when we build like a green stormwater infrastructure down here and it's completed construction in like the wintertime. We'll like try to like plan and host an event, like a little ribbon cutting thing for the surrounding community in like the springtime. So yeah, something to consider.
Bring all of our boats into Martin's Point and celebrate the dam.
Yeah, maybe if those people on those properties right there want to continue their, of course, generosity. But no, this has been great, and I really do want to thank Lou and you and Gary and the Dam Commission for. I mean, this has been like an every week thing.
Yeah,
So
it's been great.
Great to see. Yeah.
Yep. No, in a long time. I mean, I tell the story often. I joined the commission, I think, in 2014 or so, 2012. And, you know, the report was out that the dam had to get replaced. I mean, this has been a 10, 12 year, you know, process, you know, permitting, funding, everything else, but it's, you know, on schedule, on budget, and hopefully we can have a dam celebration because we're quite tired of all the damn questions.
Touche.
You know, but yes, yeah. But no, I'm very happy to report that yes, it is going, you know, tremendously well.
Awesome. Cool. We are over time, but I very much appreciate the big interest in the dialogue and asking questions to Alex and his time, of course, too. But any other questions before we close out? Anything else that's going on around town? Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, everyone, again. This has been great, and I look forward to seeing you guys next time. And I'll send out a message about the next meeting, too. Appreciate everyone's flexibility with going on a Tuesday this time instead of a Wednesday. So we'll be back on Wednesdays for the November meeting. But
glad you sent a reminder.
Yeah, I sent one right before, too, like around
glad
6:01, and I was like...
Otherwise, appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks. Nick, I sent you a text. Just take a look at it.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I will.
All right.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.